It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the movies of April 1st, 1994. 6 movies to look at. Let's not waste any more time. Let's just jump on into it, and we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is the comedy sequel, Major League 2.
Going! Oh no, not the damn song again!
Look out in the cheap seats. The funniest team in baseball is back for their best season ever.
All the way!
Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn.
What was that last pitch you threw me?
Oh, you call it the Eliminator.
Jake Taylor.
There's a rookie in camp I'm going to need your help with.
What exactly is his problem?
Roger Dorn.
Come on, Roger. Take one for the team.
Willie Mays Hayes.
And he's out by an eyelash at third. Boy, we never seem to get the close ones.
Pedro Serrano.
Serrano killed baseball.
And making their debuts this season, Jack Bartman. Kamikaze Tanaka. Rube Baker.
I bet you're wondering why they call me Rube.
No, I got a pretty good idea how that happened.
And back in the booth, team announcer Harry Doyle.
The Indians are showing signs of life for the first time in weeks. They appear to be beating the crap out of each other.
Major League 2. It's a swing and a hit.
So unlike D2 The Mighty Ducks, which I would say is the best of the series, this series regressed pretty quickly. I mean, this movie was not good. I mean, it should have been a warning sign right away when the first movie was rated R, and this was rated PG because, you know, we got to bring the kids into the Major League series, you know? And, yeah, it didn't work out so well. I mean, they got most of the original people back from the first film, so I don't know why they decided, let's just go to the family route, because it honestly didn't work very well. The writing here is not very good compared to the first movie. The jokes just aren't there. The cast overall doesn't have that same magnetism that they had the first time around. They were able to get everybody back except Wesley Snipes, who at this point had become an action star, and they got Omar Epps, who is a great actor. And I mean, he coaches the Steelers pretty well, because I make that big joke because everybody compares Omar Epps to Mike Tomlin, and okay, there is some kind of there is a little bit of a similarity there, but that's not the point altogether. I mean, Omar Epps, I think he's a really good actor. I've seen him in some pretty good stuff, but yeah, just the movie overall just doesn't have that same spark that the first movie did, and neither of the sequels really did. Like, if you want my honest opinion, and I think I talked about this when I talked about the original Major League 5 years ago, or 5 years, when that movie came out 5 years ago, I should say. I kind of prefer the third movie better. I mean, it's not a good sequel, but at least the third movie had some more laughs to it, at least to me, than this movie did, because this movie really does not have that many good laughs in there. I mean, everybody's trying their best here. I mean, you brought everybody back for a reason, and they're trying their best here. Maybe once or twice there's a good chuckle here or there, but it's just boggled down by that PG rating for something that was rated R before. I don't know why they thought they needed to go down the family route with this, but the family film route with this. But even this isn't even really that much of a family film, but that PG rating. Although I do say that, but this is back when PG actually meant something, and not like the PG of today, where a My Little Pony movie gets a PG rating. Like, the fact that the recent My Little Pony movie and this has the same rating should just tell you how low that PG rating has sunk over the years. But with that said, that's Major League 2. Definitely a major step down from the first movie, I should say. So, let's go to another comedy that had some good talent involved, but it's complicated. Let's talk about Clifford.
Can you just act like a human boy for 1 minute here? Look at me like a person. You can't do it for more than a few seconds. Look at me like a human boy.
The only thing worse than being a 10-year-old boy.
Would you please stop hitting the back of my chair? I am trying to sleep.
I'm sorry, Miss Nice Older Person, but I don't know what you're talking about. Perhaps you were just having a nightmare about your early days in the circus.
Is being his uncle.
You wouldn't lie to me, would you, Uncle Martin? Because if you did, I'd be so angry. I don't know what I'd do.
Martin Short and Charles Grodin.
napkin. This boy and his cereal.
So here you have another one of those movies that Orion Pictures had on their shelf for a number of years because they couldn't get the money to finance it, to put it out there, and it was actually shot back in 1990 and came out 4 years later, which should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about this movie. I remember when I first saw this movie, I did not really like it at all. I thought it was not a good movie. I thought it wasn't all that entertaining, but this movie has had an interesting history to me. Like, it's one of those movies where I go back, where at first I didn't like it, and I kind of go back and forth on it. I get what they're trying to do here, and I think what makes it work is Charles Grodin. I think he's the one person in this particular movie that really makes this work out so well, and that's because he was such a great actor. He was able to work with this kind of stuff very well, and I like that this movie went as dark as he could. I like that he went as dark as he could in this movie, and he really is one of the strongest things about this movie. Martin Short in particular, just the idea of him playing this kid, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And this is the Martin Short that gets really on your nerves very quickly, and it's like a mix between, in a way, it's kind of like a mix between Beethoven and Problem Child. Like, it definitely feels like it has that kind of vibe to it. But Beethoven at least had some value to it, as did Problem Child. But this, okay, I take that back. There is value to it in Charles Grodin's performance, I think. And there are a couple moments that actually did kind of get me, like the random explosion of Charles Grodin's model when he's giving the speech. I don't know why, it just makes me laugh so hard because it basically comes out of nowhere. It's like if Michael Bay came in for a brief second to shoot a scene, and they said, "Okay, we got to blow this thing up," and yeah, it's a weird movie. It's not a good movie. I don't even want to say it's a bad movie. It's a weird movie. It's a movie that's kind of like, I'm glad I saw it. I think it works because of specific elements to it, but other than that, it's a movie that's kind of like a mixed bag for me. It's a movie that's not good, it's not bad, it's just kind of in the middle, honestly. It's not one I'd run back to see over and over again, but every once in a while, if I want to see it again, I wouldn't mind seeing it again, but as it is, it's just a mixed bag kind of a movie, one that doesn't really hold a lot of memorability to me, at least to me. I know some people do like it, but that's just my thinking on it. So, that's Clifford. Let's move on to the next movie, and it's Don Bluth's adaptation of Thumbelina.
I love stories, don't you?
Once upon a time, in a land far, far away,
Thumbelina! She's a funny little squirt.
a very small girl, no bigger than a thumb,
I wish I were big.
Don't ever wish to be anything but what you are.
had an impossible dream of finding her one true love.
Let me be your only love.
We'll live happily ever after.
But before her fairy prince could claim her heart,
She's gonna marry the fairy prince.
Well, perhaps.
she was stolen from her home.
Thumbelina's gone.
Who did it? A toad.
And lost to a very big world.
I'll find her.
You are going to marry my son?
Oh, no.
Thumbelina! I hear that she loves the fairy prince, right?
Are you really gonna marry the fairy prince?
Yes.
Well, then follow your heart. It will lead you home.
From the enchanting pages of Hans Christian Andersen's storybook classic and the imagination of Don Bluth, director of An American Tale, comes a magical ride in a world brought to life by the music of Barry Manilow.
Oh, Thumbelina.
I love great romances. Thumbelina. Nothing is impossible if you follow your heart.
A lovely story.
Okay, so we really need to talk about where Don Bluth was at this period, because he had just done Rock-a-Doodle, which wasn't a big hit, but it was still a movie that it made a decent profit. It had a lasting following to it, but then right after that movie came out, the studio that Don Bluth had created, Sullivan Bluth Studios, went into bankruptcy. So he had these 3 different projects that were all coming out at the same time, like over the course of a year, and not all of them were, and needless to say, not all of them were good. In fact, most of them were pretty bad, with the exception of the last one, which you might be surprised by. But I guess this one was the second least bad, or the second most good. I mean, I don't know really where you want to go with it, but it's certainly the best Don Bluth movie that came out in '94. The other one that came out in '94 is we'll get to that one eventually, but this is basically Don Bluth trying to do a Disney knockoff, which is funny because 3 years later he would actually do a Disney knockoff in Anastasia, which actually would turn out a whole lot better. But with this movie in particular, it's just kind of like, there's elements there that should work. It's got a pretty good cast to it. It's got the music of Barry Manilow, and it just doesn't have that same spark. It's got nice animation to it, and I mean, they went all in to try to make this their own Disney knockoff by getting Jodie Benson from The Little Mermaid as the voice of Thumbelina. And I mean, you got a great cast overall here. Gilbert Gottfried, Carol Channing, John Hurt, Charo, Kenneth Mars, June Foray, Tony Jay, Will Ryan, Lauren Lester, just these notable names that you've seen and heard before. And I mean, the movie just didn't work out very well at all. It's a movie that's not really anything all that exciting. It doesn't really do anything that's really, really all that good of a film. I mean, put it this way. The film is, when they did test screenings for this movie, Warner Brothers actually replaced this with the Disney Pictures logo, and it got higher scores because of that. That should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about how bad this movie really is, because it's really a bad movie. And if I saw this movie back then, I honestly would have just gone to see it for the Animaniacs short that was in front of it. I guess they were going to do a series of Animaniacs shorts because the show had just premiered at the time. And they had the I'm Mad short at the beginning of in theaters at the beginning of this, and eventually went into the series. And they were actually going to do more of these, but because this movie failed, they never put those in theaters again. But if you watch the Animaniacs TV series, you can tell which ones I think were intended to be theatrical releases, because you'll start to see the black bars, the widescreen black bars show up on there. And like I said, honestly, if I was at this age, at the age I was seeing this movie, I would have just got to see the Animaniacs short and then just left. I mean, I would have get my parents to take me out of the movie theater. I mean, it'd basically be the equivalent of what I should have done with Ice Age Continental Drift. I really only went to see that movie to see the Simpsons short that was in front of it, and I really wanted to get out of there, but that wasn't the case. But as far as this movie goes, it's not very good. But like I said before, it beats the crap out of what Don Bluth does next, and it's just not a very entertaining movie. It's trying its best to try to be a Disney knockoff, but it's trying to be something of Disney caliber, but it ends up coming across as just a Disney knockoff, and it's not a good Disney knockoff. But, I mean, like I said, it's not as bad as what we'll get to later on in the year from Don Bluth, but that's just my thoughts on Thumbelina. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is The House of the Spirits.
Memory is fragile, and a lifetime is brief. But every relationship, every action, and each passion are the events by which time is remembered. These crowning moments of life, between a husband and wife, family and friends, citizen and country, change the world forever.
I think you can kind of get the idea of what this is supposed to be, but right away, I think the biggest thing that you can tell from this is that it's one of those movies that had so much promise to it, a promising director, and a promising cast that includes Meryl Streep, Glenn Close, Jeremy Irons, Winona Ryder, Antonio Banderas, Vanessa Redgrave, just some of the most notable stars and Oscar winners of the past couple of years. But One of the big problems with this movie, is you could kind of, if you've ever read the story for this, is that you're casting predominantly white English-speaking actors in a Latin American period film, and needless to say, the movie did not pan out well at all. It was not a good movie. It did not do well. It was heavily considered one of the biggest misfires of the year, and you could probably see why. It's a film that really, it doesn't really have that spark that the book had, and you can put as many good people in there as you can, but even then, it's not going to help save your movie if the material you're giving them is not very good. And I mean, at least from what you're trying to sell this movie as, I mean, the biggest problem is that you have notable actors in this movie that's clearly meant for a specific type of actor. Like, you can't cast white English-speaking actors in a movie where it requires a person from Latin America to play these roles, and that really just starts. That's really one of the major problems with the movie, is that it doesn't do that well, and it's just a huge misfire on so many levels. Like, Miramax was really coming up on its own at this time, and this is one of their major stumbles from early on. And you could definitely see why. It's just a movie that wasn't good, bad casting all around, didn't do the book any justice, and it was just seen as a major misfire. It's no wonder that this movie came out in the middle of March and April, because if Miramax thought that this was going to be their big Oscar consideration, they would have moved this to November, December, because they really believed in it. They really didn't believe in this movie, and you could definitely see why. So that's The House of the Spirits. Let's move on to the next movie, and that is Barry Levinson's Jimmy Hollywood with Joe Pesci and Christian Slater.
I have a bus bench on Sunset, right near the gates of Bel Air, big traffic flow area. They're looking for an actor, boom, they see me. Catches your eye, don't you think? If you're riding by, it catches your eye? Look good, very, very good, very compelling. The phone could ring any moment, that could be the call. That my phone? No.
Do you have a picture and resume?
He's got his own bus bench, Ed. You ever see that show Matlock, The Role of Cliff?
Oh, he was on that show?
Oh, he was up for the role of Cliff.
As an actor, Jimmy Alto couldn't get arrested.
Some guy just held me up at the ready teller.
What? Will somebody tell me what kind of sick world this is we live in?
So he took matters into his own hands.
What is the gun and the video camera all about?
I'm gonna videotape him in the act, arrest him, and hand him over to the police.
And gave himself the role of a lifetime.
You gotta think of this in acting terms. How's it look placed like this?
It looks like you don't have any arms.
This is K4. This is J5. Who am I? Who am I? This is Jericho, cell leader of the SOS. Let it be known from this day forth that lawlessness will not be tolerated.
He's very convincing. Yeah, he's a good actor.
I thought it was pretty good. What'd you think?
I don't know. It took 35 or 40 goes to get it. I kind of lost my perspective.
The police could never intimidate them the way the SOS can.
You will be chained to a bed.
Chained to the bed? I ain't with no freaky stuff, man. Y'all just kill me right now.
What the hell is this guy doing in my bathtub? Down on target.
I didn't know you were coming home.
The SOS is apparently striking a favorable nerve in Hollywood.
I wish I could join the SOS. Tell you the truth.
It's a rave reveal.
Joe Pesci. Christian Slater.
That my phone?
No.
Jimmy Hollywood.
I'm like the biggest thing on TV.
You really are a sick nut, you know that?
You're running the Oscar speech!
A new comedy by Barry Levinson.
Yeah, we're kind of in the lull of Barry Levinson movies that were coming out. Movies that had good potential to them, but in the end, they just didn't work out. And this is another one of those movies where the pieces are there. They've got a really good leading actor in Joe Pesci who fits this role perfectly, and Christian Slater, who's pretty good in the movie too. Unfortunately, the material that they're both given just doesn't work. It's not really all that hilarious. The writing isn't very funny. The satirical elements that the story should have aren't really all that good, and it's just a real major misfire on so many levels. Like a movie that really should have more going for it than it actually ends up becoming. Like, I mean, it just doesn't work. It's not funny. It's not really all that engaging, and it's just a waste of really good talent. Like I said, Joe Pesci is perfect for this role, and you can see what they're trying to say here, but they just can't stick the landing. And for Barry Levinson, who wrote the script alone, you expect a whole lot more from him, especially with the work he had done beforehand. But, yeah, like I said, this is not one of his strongest works. It came and went, and you could probably see why. But I mean, kind of like with Don Bluth, I'll give him this. He made his best film with this film compared to the other film he made in 1994. But even that one's not even that one isn't really all that great either. But so yeah, that's Jimmy Hollywood. Now let's end this on a high note. Let's talk about Guillermo del Toro's Cronos. The first feature film from Guillermo del Toro, of course. This is the movie that was selected as the Mexican entry for the foreign language film at the Academy Awards. It didn't get the nomination, but it's still a fantastic movie. If you have the Criterion set with this, The Devil's Backbone, and Pan's Labyrinth, his trilogy, in fact, I don't remember what the name of the trilogy was. Give me a second. Okay, maybe there wasn't a name for it, but I know that with this, Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth in the Criterion Collection, there's a trilogy set of all three movies, and you could definitely see why Guillermo del Toro became who he was with this particular movie. This is a movie that's very stylistic, very ingenious, very creative, very tense, very terrifying. Great performance by Ron Perlman in this movie, and it's just a solidly made film. It's a very nice, ugly looking movie, but in a good kind of ugly kind of way. And it's just a very well made film. It shows you everything that makes Guillermo del Toro so special as a director, that he makes a movie like this and it really grows into the career that he would eventually have going down the road. Not every movie he made was perfect, but it's a great start that shows everybody that, hey, this guy's got a lot of potential, and he would eventually show that potential in the many movies that he would end up doing after this point. And that's pretty much all I got for you. If you haven't seen Cronos and you want to see some of Guillermo del Toro's best work, definitely check this one out. You will not be disappointed by it at all. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we'll take a look at the movies of April 8th, two movies in particular, including Threesome and also the sequel, Leprechaun 2. So that's it for this week. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. And until then, as always, take care.